What's up, locals? It's Mike and Kenzie coming to you live from the 775. Now, before we get into this episode, we have one small request. Please be sure to like and subscribe wherever you watch or listen. Now, let's get into it.
Welcome back to your favorite locals. We are bringing you this episode from the National Automobile Museum. And today we have a spicier than normal episode for you with a very special guest. He is a Las Vegas local, a stand-up comedian in Las Vegas and Reno, and a seasoned veteran in the debate world. Jackson Stoever.
Thank you guys for having me.
Welcome to your favorite locals podcast.
I love the podcast. Very excited to be here. And I'm pretty honestly, I'm pretty shocked Mike said yes to this idea. I was probably 12 drinks in when I pitched this, and he was like, let's do it.
It was great. It tickled my fancy immediately. You're like, so idea, debate? And I was like, oh, Jesus, I'm in.
It's truly the most fun you can have. Like, it's politics, but not politics, you know?
I love being a natural contrarian and just a piece of shit that kind of stirs the pot from time to time.
Yep, I've seen your stand-up.
Yeah, not great at family reunions, not great at stand-up all the time, but it's fun.
We touched a little bit on what this episode is going to be about. It's going to be a spicy little debate episode. But today is not about getting to the bottom of the truth. Today is about convincing me.
Okay.
I am the truth. I am the way. So the best way to convince me is to have a good old-fashioned debate. So we're going to have two controversial topics. Topic number one is going to be, should tipping be abolished? Mike is going to be in support of tipping. Jackson is going to be against tipping.
Yeah, so I'll be taking the affirmation on the resolution.
Yes.
Which means I'll be going first, and I'm pro getting rid of tipping.
Yes.
He's going to be on the side of let's keep the tips.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Pro tipping on faux.
People are going to hate me after this.
Well, I think it's important to preface that going into the arguments, the audience should know that just because you're arguing for either side doesn't mean that you totally believe it. So I think that's okay.
Yeah.
But the structure of this debate is that we're going to have 2 minutes of opening statements, 2 minutes of cross-examination, and then 2 minutes of closing arguments. So with that, gentlemen.
We'll get started on the first topic.
Topic number one.
Okay.
Wait, I have to start the timer.
Get ready. Get the timer ready.
Get the timer.
This is gonna be good.
All right. Ready and go.
I stand in firm affirmation of the resolution that the U.S. should abolish tipping for multiple reasons, and I'm going to lay them out for you now. My first reason is that most first world countries on this planet do not tip. They have this thing called a living wage, which negates the need for a tip, which allows people to live a life where you can work a service industry job and still have a family, a home, and live the life you want to. Now, in particular, the U.S. is built around this thing called the American dream, and right now it's further away than it's ever been. But we expect tips and, these added benefits of this labor industry to be what get us there. But in reality, we should be taking care of our people first, second, and third. I think that tipping is something that has come about through a very interesting process I'm about to get into. But it's something that's outdated and we've lost it, right? Like, I think there was a time for it, and I think that it came with something. I think tipping was meant to bring better service, better quality, friendlier staff. But I think now that quality standards are so low and everything's so commercialized, that we should just raise the livable wage, let people make enough doing the job that they do to take care of themselves, their families, and pursue the life they want to. Now, I found this interesting statistic I was very excited to share with you guys from marketplace.org. American tipping also has roots in slavery. According to some experts, the changing workforce in the Reconstruction era America helped to give rise to tipping. Saru I'm not going to pronounce that, president of the Service Worker Advocacy Group, reported last year to Marketplace. Now, that shows how outdated tipping is, because if it's part of Reconstruction, it means we're well past that. We've now come up with all these new technologies and things that can change our world. And I think a living wage is a creation of other more socialized countries that the U.S. needs to adapt. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to turn us into a socialized hellscape overnight, but it will mean people can live happier lives without having to rely on generous customers every day. Thank you.
And you have 5 more seconds,
I'm
4
good.
more seconds. All right, wow.
Now, I have a question. Do I respond to your points, or do I just bring my points?
We'll have a cross-examination after, but you should use this time to focus on your points.
All right.
And then we'll have our rebuttal, which is where we can go after each other because I'm
Beautiful.
going to be taking notes.
All right.
Okay.
Ready when you are.
So now the 2 minutes starts for tipping should not be abolished.
Yeah.
Okay, start.
Ladies and gentlemen, tipping should not be taxed, first of all, but it is necessary. It incentivizes a wonderful service experience. While we can acknowledge that I think the quality standards have gone down from the pandemic, tipping is necessary, okay? I have an interesting statistic for you. So tips account for about 60% of restaurant employees' wages per the Economic Policy Institute, and over 10% of the U.S. workforce happens to be within the restaurant industry. So imagine the devastation that would happen to remove that extra income from these people. That makes up 10% of our GDP. What happens then? Just wondering. I think that tipping enables low-skill workers to earn a livable wage that they otherwise could not. Most restaurants operate on about an 8% on average profit margin. So if you were to factor those things in and take tipping away, that would be terrible. That's going to increase the cost of goods. It's going to decrease the amount of people going to these restaurants. And as a result, the favorite places that you love to go out and eat will probably close their doors. I think that tipping also incentivizes, it allows for our society to support innovation and commerce, right? That's where you get things like Twin Peaks. Without tipping, you would not have the Hooters, the Twin Peaks, these wonderful establishments where you tip and you tip well. How much time do I have left?
A minute and 28 seconds.
Oh, that's a long
sorry.
time.
You have 30 more seconds.
Okay, I was
That's
like,
how
damn.
much time has passed.
All right. I also think that tipping establishes like a direct feedback. So if there's good service, you would tip more. If there's bad service, you don't tip at all. I think that it's a great way for customers to interact with the restaurant itself and really provide a wholesome experience for everybody involved. For that reason, I support tipping and I think that it should remain. I yield the rest of my time.
Wow, you two. Early birds. Okay. I'm not going to say where I'm leaning, but both have good arguments. I would say the faster you talk, the less I'm understanding.
Understood.
Shit.
Okay. So now we're moving into the cross-examination. So then would that mean that you
Yeah, so since
are...
I took the first speech, I get right to first question, but then we'll go back and forth one for one.
And that's a full 2 minutes?
Yes.
Or
yeah.
4 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes.
It'll feel like 4 minutes, trust me.
Okay. All right, and begin.
Okay, since I have right to first question, can I ask you if if your statistic is correct and 60% of restaurant earners' wages were tips, do you not agree that restaurants should pay people more?
I do, but I don't think that restaurants have the actual capacity to pay more at the current prices that they offer their menus. So if you're okay with paying more for a steak that's already expensive,
Perfect.
then
Thank you.
that is my point.
Your question.
All right. You say the quality standards have dropped. When you enter a restaurant, do you tip based on the quality of service, the food, and is that going to be in conjunction with how you rate your overall experience?
That's an excellent question because you touched on this yourself. You, in fact, said that quality standards have dropped
Certainly
post-COVID, but as well, you also said that direct feedback is what tips do. But I would like to turn my answer into my next question, which is, do you truly believe that Americans treat tips as honest feedback, or do you think it's something that's expected of you when you go to a restaurant?
Yes and yes. I think that tipping at its fundamental core is democracy of the dollar. It is a vote of confidence. And if you do not tip, you had a shitty experience, which you probably will not return. You might even talk on Yelp. So yes, I do believe that.
Very interesting. Your question, Monsieur.
Do you think you should be expected to tip when you go to a restaurant in America?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I think that tipping should be added to it. But I'll also turn this answer into a rebuttal to something you said, which is that, you know, the restaurants don't have enough money to pay people more, but you are already expected to tip. So when you're ordering things, you're doing that mental math in your head, which means that you're going to pay the same amount as if what would happen if they were to raise the prices of anything to counteract the new cost of employees. So do you agree with my statement there? There we go. That'll be my final question.
Who do I agree with? God damn it. That's a great yes or no, you son of a bitch.
3,
Yes, I do agree with that.
Looking
and
good.
we're done. Okay. I definitely am a little more swayed at this point. maybe to the left of me.
Nice.
I am not surprised.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. We are going to start the final closing statements. Each person gets 2 minutes.
Yep.
Okay. Wait, cross-examination on his end, though.
Yeah,
No.
that's what we do.
Oh,
what
that
we
was
just
just a
did.
full 2 minutes. Okay. All right. Sorry.
I don't have enough content for that. I'm fucked.
Okay. Okay. Ready? And go.
I think that everyone watching this, and you in particular, should be on my side of this debate because we've proven that quality standards have dropped to a point that tipping doesn't truly reflect what it used to. We've also proven that tipping is a part of Reconstruction era post-slavery movement, which is an outdated time in American history, and we've moved past that. But we should follow our European counterparts who do not expect tips and in exchange raise the prices so restaurants can make the money needed to pay their workers. In reality, tipping is something that is an added part of American life that makes everything difficult for everybody. You have to carry extra cash. You have to do math. You know, our schools aren't that good. What's 7% of anything? I don't know. And on top of that, people just expect tips. You know, I probably am going to get shamed for this, but I treat tipping like using my dollar, and I only do it when things are good. And I look like a villain most of the time. So I'm going to cut my time early because I don't need it because I'm pretty sure I creamed Mike. And I'm going to say you should vote for the affirmation. Thank you.
Alrighty. That was very funny. Very good. Okay. Mike, are you ready?
Yes.
This is so fun. Okay. Ready? And go.
Ladies and gentlemen, tips are the last standing, the last final frontier of voting with your dollar. If you truly believe in democracy, you believe in tipping. You're able to convey how your experience was, unlike this post-Reconstruction era nonsense that you're talking about. This is a service industry. We're talking about people getting paid for labor. It makes sense. We cannot be like our European counterparts because we enjoy freedom. We enjoy democracy. We enjoy the things that matter to this country. And on top of that, the unrealized economic downturn that would happen from taking 60% of somebody's income, that is 10% of our gross domestic profit, is unrecognizable. We cannot handle that. That is why Europe is in tatters, and that's why this great country continues to get greater. I rest my case. Vote for Mike, and tip your bartender.
Oof, that was cold. That was a cold ending. I have so much to say, but we'll wait for the judge's verdict.
I am really so torn on this topic because I have been on both sides as a server, and being out of the industry and especially post-COVID, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want to tip for this shit. Like, I really do think that it's a reflection of your customer service, and if your customer service is not good, then I don't want to tip you.
Yeah.
If I'm doing takeout, I don't want to tip you. However, if you're my bartender and you're chatting me up, you're maybe educating me on a couple things, I want to give you a good tip. I want to show my respect for you, my love for you, and that you created such a wonderful ambiance and experience for me. However, with the arguments that were stated at the National Automobile Museum, I have to say that I am leaning towards Jackson's arguments.
Let's go. I didn't even bring out the fact that we tip for everything nowadays, too. That would have been an easy blow.
Yeah, it would have.
Like when you're getting do-it-yourself soft serve ice cream, and they're like, "You want to do a tip?" I'm like, "I just made my own freaking ice cream."
Yeah. Last night.
Well, let's actually talk about it now. Okay,
Okay,
let's
let's do it.
actually like talk about our true thoughts and feelings and
Okay.
not just debate it. I recently had an experience with my DoorDasher, and I did not really want to tip. It's not something that I normally do, but it was on there. And the tips were kind of like outrageous. It started with $2.50 and then it moved to $4 and then $6. And I was like, he's just dropping off my food and he's getting paid to do that. Like, what extra thing is he giving me? And I decided not to tip. And I told him to leave the food at my door. He proceeds to knock on my door. I open it. I'm a little frazzled because I said, leave it at my door, right? Those are my
Wanted
directions.
to avoid the consequences.
And he goes, you forgot to tip. My heart sank. Like, I felt
You're
like,
like, I didn't forget shit.
That's how
I,
somebody who handles confrontation would have.
Yeah.
but I'm not good with confrontation. And my heart literally sank. And he was giving me like weird, creepy shooter vibes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I'm gonna shoot you over $4.
and so I literally was like, oh, I did? Okay. And I close the door. I go back. I take my food. I go to my room. And I call my mom. And I'm like, Mom, I didn't tip the DoorDasher because he wasn't home. So he couldn't like help me if anything were to happen.
Defend you.
I had no defense. So I call my mom, like, Mom, I didn't tip the DoorDasher. She's like, you need to tip him. He knows where you live. You need to tip him. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I go back on the app.
Probably.
But I was like, hold on. He didn't even follow my directions. Like, he didn't leave it there. Maybe he could have messaged me saying, hey, you didn't tip me. He didn't even follow the directions of leaving it at my door.
So essentially what you're saying is we have to tip Uber drivers and DoorDashers to not kill us in our sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why we do it. That's the added benefit. You
Literally.
tip him so he doesn't come back later and Ted
Yes.
fun to you, you know?
No, that's literally why I ended up tipping him because I'm like, fuck, I don't want him to come back and murder me.
Yeah. And by the way, I know it sounded like I'd be tough. I would be like, oh, I think I've got $5 in here somewhere. You know, like
Oh, my bad.
I'm a total coward. The
No,
moment
I-
anyone confronts me, I'm like, I'm sorry. You know, like
Shit.
my bad.
No, but that's literally how I felt. And I've had so many experiences at our door and I'm alone and he's not there. And I'm like,
You know where the gun is.
yeah, but like, no, I'm not. Okay, no, I'm not even going to go there. It's more about like, I open the door and I feel so exposed. I feel so vulnerable. I literally feel like they're seeing me naked when I open the door in our apartment where they can see the living room, the kitchen. They can see all the doors. They see the layout of the entire room.
Well,
And I'm like, they now know.
You've never held a loaded gun at the door because you don't feel naked anymore. You
But
could
also,
be naked.
you have to realize the situation, right? You're telling her to go get the gun. She's at the door, face to face with the guy.
Should have had it with her.
I don't want to be your DoorDasher. Yeah, I'd be very careful. Anyone
Yeah,
watching
no,
this,
I mean-
next time you see Mike Pragg's name, you're gonna be like, "Not that
Forgot to
house."
tip.
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You don't ask for your tip.
My parents literally bought us a ring camera.
Oh, okay.
Because of this
Not an
situation.
engagement
ring.
Oh
I
no,
bought
no,
that.
not the
I
one
was
on my
like,
finger.
yeah, I was like, good for
no,
you.
they bought us a ring camera because if he's not there, if he's on work trips or whatever, they're like, you need to be protected. And I'm like, I do.
Video evidence so the police can find who did it.
That's fair.
That's not protection. That's after the fact.
So this is a good segue into what we're talking about. But so I was in college during COVID. So I lost 2 years of what's supposed to be the best time of your life to COVID. So afterwards, I was like, I'm not going to go straight into the workforce because I was like business major. I knew I was going to end up in a corporation one way or another. I'm like, I'm not going to sell my soul to the man right off the bat.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to do a year abroad. So I did a year in Australia. Bondi Beach. you know?
Nice.
And so out there, tipping's not a thing at all. And it's like, it's
Right.
weird because we think the Australians are so like us. But what you learn really quickly is that when you don't tip in Australia, like it's because they have the living wage, but also since you're not tipping, the staff has the right to treat you like shit. Like as a guy in a bar, you're never getting a drink right off the bat. You know, like if you go to a lunch place, you're ordering off an iPad and it's showing up to some counter and you're grabbing it. But the best experience was like my first or second week in Australia when I started this like year abroad. We're in a coffee shop. And my stepdad is like a huge fitness guy. He loves to work out. He's Australian too, so he's familiar with the culture. And we're taking his parents out for coffee. And he's like, yeah, I'll do 4 coffees and we'll do just give us a mix of scones. He's like, I want 2 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these. She's like, you sure about that, fatty? And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And nobody batted an eye. Like in America, there'd be a Yelp review, there'd be a Karen outbreak.
Right.
It was hilarious. And they just carry that same energy across everything. So I
like
think
that.
like that's one thing I also probably should have mentioned is like if we get rid of tipping in the US, like there's no longer this pretending we're friends in this interaction.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, here's your food.
Yeah.
I'm
This is
getting
a
paid
job.
either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I think that's what a lot of people in the U.S. forget. Because like, I started in the tip industry. I know exactly how it works. Like my first job, I was making $8 an hour. Like all my money was tips. So I feel that. But also like, you're getting paid to do a job, so it's weird to rely on other people to be like, here's your actual money.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like you were nice enough to me to earn food for the night.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Here's some
like,
tokens.
You're a
I mean,
stat.
I so just kind of like, going to the service industry because I was a server for a couple years and I would wait on tables that were like 16 tops, 20 tops. And I remember being so overwhelmed. And we didn't have the auto, like the auto
autograt.
20
Yeah.
autograt of like 20%. And that later came into existence because so many of us were complaining because we weren't getting good enough tips, and we're running back and forth, like literally sweating. It was like a workout. I did not need to work out through the week because I would just go into my shift and I would literally be burning so many calories. And we finally got the autograt, but then people started complaining about the autograt because but why would you not at least tip 20%? On something that was like, you've been here for like 2 or 3 hours, and I could have had multiple tables during that time, made way more money if you're not going to tip at least 20% on your table.
Yeah. And, I feel exactly, I've done every job. And you're just like, when people, I love the videos too, by the way, where people are like, what's gratuity? I didn't order that. And you're like,
What's gratuity?
Who is gratuity?
I didn't order that, and they see it on the bill.
Oh my
God. Like, I think that's also kind of messed up. Like, I get it. Like, especially with big parties, but also to be like, oh, there's also $200 extra that you didn't account for when you were thinking about how much you were going to pay for a family dinner.
Yeah.
Like, to what you were saying right after we finished the debate, if you've got a bartender who's chatting you up, who's telling you all about the city, who's sick, you want to tip him.
Right, he's
but
creating.
That's because your martini's $10. So you're like, if I throw another 5 at them, that's 15. But if your martini is $16 to make up for his lost wages because he's not getting tips, like in a theoretical situation, you wouldn't feel like you need to tip. You're like, that's a $16 martini. Some of that better be going to him. Like
you would think. Well, I have a bit about it on stage about being racist and quitting a serving job.
Oh, great. Here we go.
Yeah. It's
straight
like,
into it.
I'm not actually racist. I just like people who tip. And there is a certain bias that you get in the service industry. It's very real where you're like, I'm not getting a fucking tip on this table. God damn it. You don't even have to say the group because the group varies. And you'll be surprised by whatever.
You just know the table. They walk in, they ask you for 6 ranches.
Yep.
At different times.
You're
like, no, this is cool. I already just brought you 3.
Yep. And I've had the same issue with old white ladies that do the soup and salad special, and you're like, well, you're going to be a pain in the ass, and you're going to pay me nothing.
Yeah.
This is lunch for you and work for me, and I'll fuck off.
Well, the worst part about living in Australia for a year is it got me so accustomed to not tipping that when they ask me in the U.S., I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
There's a livable wage.
Yeah, I'm like a guy at work said this really well. He said, if I'm standing up to order, I'm not tipping you. And I've kind of lived by those words since then.
That's a great attitude, actually.
But also, the whole finances of it, they really equal out because the biggest gaslighting I've ever done in my life is talking myself. Beers are $12, a glass in Australia, and it's just so much money. And I'm like, I won't be paying that when I get back to the U.S., but if you buy a beer with tip, it's $12.
It's $12, yeah.
Especially down in Vegas, it's just everything's a scam.
Well, I think also, Vegas is, on another level, so I can imagine that. Yeah. But I also think just in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID, prices have gone up, livable wages have gone up, and tipping is still expected.
I know some people in the service industry watching this are going to hate me, but I love when I tip. I use it to round out the amount.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, they'll make this an even $20. So my credit card
cents.
statements make way more sense. Sometimes $1.30, but also everything we just talked about goes into my thought process. If it's at they asked me to tip at PetSmart the other day.
What?
Yeah. I swear to God. I was I'm just buying fish tank stuff.
I had to ask you to come out of the back to help me. You were fucking off.
Yeah, I was like, this is weird. But I don't know if you've felt this or ever had to do this, either of you, but there's nothing worse in this life than when you're working in a restaurant or bar and you have one of those iPads that asks the question.
Oh, the 20.
Hey, it's just gonna ask you a quick question. Yeah. I don't know what the question is, but could you just look at that? And you're looking away. You're like, was it good enough? Yeah.
No eye contact. Couple questions for you.
It's a trigger. I think it's a trigger point for me when the iPad gets turned and they're like, yeah, there's just going to be a couple more questions on there for you. And I'm like, I don't see the question.
None.
Yeah.
Where's the question?
And they're it's worse when they're looking at you. They're like, what are you going to put?
Yeah.
They're looking over it and you're like, It's like feels like you're putting in your pin.
Well,
you know?
it's like, well, you just made me uncomfortable, so now I'm not going to give you a tip. See, I'm all about the experience. Like, I feel like when I was serving, I made it a point to be social, to be friendly, to like make their experience, whether it was a birthday or anniversary, like some kind of celebration, I'd be like all up in it. I'm like, you're getting a free dessert, you're going to get a free drink, which
Yeah.
I don't know if I was supposed to do that, but
Hey,
at the end of the day, I'm trying to make this a great experience for you. And so when I don't feel like that's reciprocated to me when I go out, I'm like, what are you doing in this industry? You
It's-
need to find something else.
Yeah. I worked at a Pull-A-Poke over there off McCarran, which just closed down. Rip.
All right.
There's a new business coming soon, so follow Brittany. She's going to be starting up something cool. I saw the poster today when I went to the bank.
Nice.
But I worked there for like 2 years, and the best tips I got were from the people who I'd like remember their order and just like make it. They didn't even have to say anything because, like you're saying, like I had done something for them instead
Yeah.
of that, like because a lot of these things. It's just Subway with extra steps. Like a lot of these Chipotle,
Yeah.
Qdoba, it's like you get to make it, but someone's actually making it for you.
Right.
And you've seen some of those people just like don't care, and you're like, I'm getting out of here with a nice round number.
Oh yeah, Chipotle for sure. I
Fucking
hate the
half-ass
Chipotles in
scoops of
Reno.
chicken
Fuck
pisses me
Chipotle.
off.
I'm a
Well,
Qdoba
I
man.
wanna-
$10 for guac. Go fuck yourself. Anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about Vegas though a little bit with the tipping industry and the service industry. Are you like going on the strip? Are you going to the outskirts? Like what's your places to go there where you're
Fremont.
experiencing this?
So I stay away from the strip at all costs.
Okay.
Sucks to get there.
Pun intended.
Fuck. But yeah, it's terrible to get there. It's too much money. The Ubers are expensive. Everything's super pricey. So like I stay kind of on the outskirts. Like I live in southwestern Vegas by the Durango. So I go to the Durango a lot.
Okay.
But like here's another thing that's radicalized me with tipping. Is I don't, and this is gonna sound really bad, but I don't tip pretty much anyone in the casino unless I'm winning.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
the casino just took $200 from me. They can kick you 25.
Yep.
Right.
You know, so like, and the drinks are all comped. Like, I get confused about that, and so I'm just like, this was free, and you want me to still give you money? I'm like, all my money's in the baccarat table.
Right, right.
It's all on dealers.
I've been waiting 30 minutes and I'm out $300. This should be free.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they expect you though to tip when you're losing.
Oh yeah, they do.
They do?
Yeah, yeah. They
Oh, I
want
feel
you to
like
tip.
Reno's a little different in that.
I think it's just because like Vegas is like a destination gaming spot.
Yeah.
So people are like, you know, thank you, darling. You know, I've never had someone bring me a beer to my slot machine before. But like
Here it's an expectation.
yeah, most of the time, by the way, I'm there. I get the free drink when she walks by. I'm rinsed by the time she comes back. I'm like, yeah, I'm just sitting here because I knew I knew you'd remember where I was.
Are you a big gambler?
No.
Okay.
I'm just getting into it in Vegas because there's really nothing that gets me to go out to the bars. Like
Yeah.
Vegas is either clubs or like 18-year-old bars. And I'm
Oh.
kind of like
gross.
not into that. Yeah.
18-year-old bars.
Yeah, I would
sounds-
imagine
Like,
you're
you know,
not.
like it's
yeah.
like the wall of Vegas.
No, I went
Yeah.
to you guys. I actually went to an 18-year-old bar being underage, and it was. I got in trouble for it. Like I remember, it was this whole big deal. I was 16 years old. I
Oh my
think
God,
I
that's too
remember
young.
it so vividly. But anyway,
Officer, she had a fake ID.
I think there's a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge if you're like 18 to 21,
Yeah.
where if you've got a fake ID and you look old enough, like come on in. But when you're like 16, that's pushing it.
Yeah.
yeah, I was not supposed to be there. And I
That's
remember
setting
there
up
was
a
like one of
case.
those. What are those girls called? They're like kind of go-go dancers and hype people where they get everyone to dance.
Oh, the bottle
course.
girls.
Oh.
Oh no, never mind. We're all wrong.
No, at the 18-year-old bar.
So an 18-year-old, but he's just talking about like
Just
people that
bars
get
that
into.
let people.
Oh, I'm actually talking about
You're
a
talking about kids'
club
club.
Oh, you're
that's
thinking
under
about-
21.
No, that's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys never been
No.
to one of those?
No,
Oh my gosh, they're insane.
we're from Reno. You just go into the bar.
Yeah, no, oh yeah, no, I'm from the Bay.
Tall
So
enough
it
to-
was like
Yeah.
a completely different environment over there. And there was literally clubs with 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
I did
but it
actually
was
see
like
a
an
video
18
about
and up
that
club.
recently on the talk. and I
Really?
was like, this looks so dumb.
Yeah.
But I was
no,
like,
it's
also
not
the
good.
guy that came up with that is a genius because charging like $7 a soda.
Yeah.
You've got to be making it mint.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was not a place that I should have been when I was younger. But anyway, should we get into our next debate?
Let's do it.
You're
Okay.
goddamn right.
So topic number 2, you should earn the right to have kids.
I love this one.
I kind of forgot who is doing who.
I will be starting us off again.
We're
and I
not
will
doing
be
you.
for this. Doing Mike later if I'm
Yeah.
lucky. See how this
So
debate
you
goes.
are for
People,
earning
yeah, you
the
have to
right.
earn the right.
Okay, so you're for earning the right to have kids, and you're for not.
I am against.
You are against. So you start.
Yep.
Okay. Let me start the timer. Stopwatch. Okay, and go.
I stand in firm affirmation of the resolution that you should have to earn the right to have children. And I'm going to start us off with a few quick facts. Both children and adults were food insecure in 8.9% of households in 2023 in the United States, according to USDA.gov. That is 3.2 million households where they weren't sure if either age group was going to eat. Isn't that terrible? Now, here's another one. There are 3.1 million dogs in shelters in the U.S., right? Isn't that terrible? Now, there's 4 things I adamantly believe you should have a license for: cars, guns, dogs, and kids. Because it's absolutely amazing to me in this country where weed is legal, drinking is encouraged, and gambling is the only way to pull yourself out of poverty, that we're letting people procreate totally unchecked. It seems like every day you're watching another documentary about some family with 9 kids that were putting kids in cages. I'm like, there's something wrong with Americans. Like, we obviously can't stop shooting ourselves or, fighting about politics, but we just expect everyone's going to be a good parent. That's irresponsible if you ask me, right? We can't even trust people with dogs. Think about how many dogs are just unhoused that we're putting down because people couldn't be responsible enough to make sure that their dogs weren't just procreating out of control or that they got a dog that they weren't ready for. I was like, when I was in PetSmart the other day, bringing this full circle, they were telling me how many people bring pets back. Can you imagine not being responsible enough for a turtle? And speaking of, people aren't. I watch hoarder videos all the time. People can't take care of their property, let alone another little human. So, for those reasons and many more, I stand in firm affirmation of the resolution.
And that was exactly 2 minutes.
God, I'm good. Sorry.
And that is speech and debate for how many years?
4.
4 years.
Yep.
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Start.
I stand in firm negation of this debate. I will have you know, freedom, America, bodily autonomy. Don't we all care about that? The ability to do what you want with your body and your choice. Isn't that just number one? And when we think about, limiting who is and is not allowed to have children, we're looking at total population collapse. Think about China and the one-child policy. How did that work out for them? Okay, let's look at Japan, for example. Japan, I'm pretty sure, is actually offering breeding visas. So come on down and populate. When we look at people that are unfit to be parents, right, you should have to earn that right, so to speak. I think that unfit parents create hardship, and hardship creates pressure, and pressure creates diamonds. All right, that's where you get a grind set. That's where you get somebody who comes out of the mud. They're not going to be poor. They refuse to be poor. On top of that, we have government programs, we have assistance. It's in place for these poor people. And really, that's to help those in that situation get out of it, not to stay in it. On top of that, we're also prioritizing capital over life, okay? It's not human, it's anti-human if you're going to prioritize capital over human life. We should be able to procreate. Is the world built for it? Yes, it is. We have plenty of room for population, but we want to pretend like, oh, it's not okay to have another child. It's not okay to have 10 children, maybe. And I'm going to save some of my other information for when we go back and forth because I think it's a little bit stronger of an argument. So I'll call my time early at 1:40.
Alrighty. Now, I have to say I'm coming in with my own bias.
I started
here.
falling off the wagon. My argument's unraveling.
It's all right. I almost immediately went to TikToks. Neither of us had strong openers, but now I'm set. Now I'm angry. Now I'm ready to go.
All right.
Okay, we have some high emotions. All right, whoa, I'm having a stroke. The cross-examination will begin now.
So you talked a lot about bodily autonomy. Does that still apply after the child is born when their body is now separate from the person that birthed them?
Technically, they are the property of the parent until they're 18, yes.
Interesting.
Okay. So you said there's approximately 3.2 million people that experience food insecurity.
No, I said 8.9% of the population, 3.2 million households.
3.2 million households, and there are 3.1 million dogs in shelters.
Yep.
I see math that maths. So we could solve both of these problems in one night.
We're not going to eat the dogs. We're not going to eat the dogs. All right.
That's not using resources appropriately.
That's
Go
not
on.
even a question either. So you said unfit parents create diamonds.
Mhm.
Is Gypsy Rose a diamond?
Yeah, she got her own documentary. She's out and about. I don't know how that other dude is doing, but mom's out of the picture. She's doing well.
And for our audience that might not know, can you remind us what Gypsy Rose did?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, she was in a very loving relationship with a insane parent who probably should not have been her parent. What was it, Munchausen's by proxy to Gypsy Rose, and then she was like, "Hey, I think you should probably kill my mom." That sounds like bodily autonomy to me.
Sounds like a diamond to me. Your question.
It's actually going to be a rebuttal to that. Without the hardship that we get from these, fucked up households, we wouldn't have Oprah. We wouldn't get the Joe Rogans, the Mike Tysons, these hyper successful individuals. Those rise to the top. They don't come from this beautiful, loving household where there's plenty.
I'm going
of
to
room.
stop you right there because this is also not a question. Final question. Why are more educated people only having one child?
Because it is too expensive.
All right. Do you have any final questions?
I have a final statement. I'm going to
Nope.
close
We'll
out.
save that for the rebuttal.
You don't have one more question.
One more question. Nope.
All right. We'll end the cross-examination early.
Okay, and we're done.
Well, we've got to do our final statement.
No, I know. I'm saying we're done with the cross
I
examination.
thought you were done with the whole thing.
Yeah,
You're like, I've heard
we're
enough.
just gonna throw this debate out.
We can edit this out.
Yeah, let's. Okay, we'll just begin the final closing statements. Go.
As Mike said, smarter people are only having one child because shit's expensive. We can't expect everyone to be a great parent off the bat, and we shouldn't. We should make people go through tests and be government approved to have children before we allow them to commit heinous acts against their reproduced genes. I was
Offspring?
trying to think of a good word. Never mind. Oh well, that was a flop.
What else we have here?
Long story short, Americans are some of the dumbest people on the planet. I love every American. I'm one myself. I'm not the smartest, but at the same time, we shouldn't just be allowed to breed out of control. Can you imagine if there was 1 billion Americans?
It would be pretty sweet.
That'd be terrible. Walmarts are just battlegrounds. Krispy Kreme donuts everywhere. Parking lots longer than the eye can see, Like, it goes back to our earlier topic, too, of tipping. Like, Americans just need to update to the modern world, We need to limit cars, control our reproduction, and focus on moving our country forward in the right direction. At the National Automobile Museum. I rest my case. I stand in firm affirmation of the resolution. I think you should too.
Oh my gosh, that was good. Good. It was a little rocky at first,
It is.
and then
The
you
word
closed
mess
it
up,
out.
yeah.
You closed it out with
I
confidence.
was trying to look into the camera to speak to the people at home.
Oh, trust me, there will be some people putting you on the big screen.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we think about freedom, when we think about your right to choose what you do in this world, that's the American dream, is it not? Being able to do what you want with your body, having your own children, whether you want 10 in a welfare system or not, that's freedom. What I'm worried about when we make a rule like this is who makes the rule? Who decides who is and is not fit to be a parent? What happens when you've got Xi Jinping or Adolf Hitler or, as some of you think, Donald Trump? Not correct, but I rest that case right there. We're going to get a little too hot. I think that prioritizing capital and capitalism over human life is anti-human and thoroughly wrong. You can look at other countries that are doing it. They live generationally, and that's why it's not too expensive to do so. When you think about unfit parents, pressure builds diamonds, and you also get coal. And coal is still useful. We burn it, and it fuels this country. So that's a win-win in my book. When you think about the general population, yeah, a lot of them are dumb, okay? But who's going to work the next generation in the cobalt mines? We need those people. So the more children that we have in factories, the better. We're going to have more producers, more people to work, and more dogs to take care of. Those dogs will have homes because they will have more children. And I rest my case. God bless America.
Hold on, before you do your judgment, can we talk about how every rebuttal he does is straight into freedom in the American way? He both started the exact same way. He goes, freedom.
Yeah, but I think we like started touching on another topic, which was child labor.
Yeah, I also want to bring that up.
Yeah.
You did say that they should be working in the factories.
I sure did. Yeah. Who am I to say a child can't work?
Dude,
what about their dreams?
If Minecraft is the #1 game in the world for as long as it has been, it shows the children yearn for the mines.
They're lusting for the
They
mine.
yearn for the mines.
We need the cobalt. So I think the general infrastructure of this country relies on those child labor laws.
And then if we get the dogs to pull the cobalt.
I'm just saying it's not a proper use of resources.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you two actually believe?
No. We need to know
Yeah,
where
we
do
need
you
to
Oh,
know your
sorry.
answer.
I guess what do
Yeah,
I
what
believe?
moves you?
Sorry,
What
I know you were
convinced you?
freedom?
so thrown off by child
I was,
labor.
yeah. I
Was it
really
your
was.
freedom?
I was like really on like your side, but then the child labor law just like
Well, what's the
completely
but?
threw me
I think
through,
that's good.
through a loop. I mean, you won that for me just because I also already believe that we should not have a law with it. I don't think that's right, because then once you start putting laws on what we can do with our body as a woman, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and more freedoms are going to be taken away. So to say that I can't have a kid because I'm unfit, exactly, who decides that I'm unfit for that?
I wouldn't say it's just about you. I would say it's about the other person. You know, it's like, it takes two to tango. Like
Babies are made this way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
well,
think-
okay, but either way,
I think the
people-
government should just be like, hey, we noticed that neither of you have any teeth or the ability to read, so it's going to be a no.
Credit score is 380. I don't know. if this is
I
gonna
can
work.
understand on like the surface level of it, because yes, there are definitely some people out there, a lot of people out there that shouldn't be parents.
Like
But no, I'm not gonna. I mean,
Ooh.
but I don't think that there should be any kind of law around it, because I do think like once you start putting stipulations on it or regulations on it, like it's actually a much deeper, complex issue, and more freedoms are going to be taken away.
So, and the end of story. It's a Mike win.
Yes, Mike won. So 1-1.
1-1 looks like you'll have to have me back.
Yes, we'll have another
Tiebreaker.
debate.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh boy.
This time I'll prepare much more.
Big fakies or naturals?
You want to hear something really embarrassing about speech and debate?
Yes.
The official title of what speech and debate is for high schoolers across America is the National Forensic League, which is NFL.
Kidding.
So obviously the NFL just stomped all over them for,
Right.
trademark, all of that sort of stuff.
Right.
But it's still like you can get onto sites and it's like the NFL records and it's like good sources. And I was like, this is so nerdy. I'm on the NFL website looking for debate material.
Is it still called the NFL though?
It's called, they say the full name, the National Forensic League.
Okay, so they can't say NFL though. They
They-
can't
no,
like
they
shorten
really- they
it.
can't.
The
Yeah.
NFL.
There's also,
NFL.
yeah.
The National Forensic League.
Okay.
We just really
I
have
was
to
wondering
add
where
that
you were
to
going
that.
with that.
No, just adding an extra
The
letter.
way you go back to freedom and Trump, this full circle, like, it could have been anything.
Yeah. It gives
It
you
really
a lot of
could have
outs.
been anything.
Really
yeah.
could have been anything. Well, that was fun, guys. Thanks for indulging in that.
That was fun.
That was
I
a
enjoyed
good
that.
way to start.
I
Yeah.
feel like I need to prepare far more because I
Yeah,
ran
no,
out
that
so
was
quickly.
like I said before we started the podcast, who knew Valentine's Day single was such a big drinking holiday? I had plans to write more stuff down, and then I had 3 martinis while watching Gladiator 2.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Where did you go last night?
I went to my favorite bar in Reno. Shout out the Arlington Saloon. It's happy hour from 6 to 10 p.m. every day of the week.
Oh.
No shit.
Yes, it is the hidden gem in Reno. There's the
Wow.
best pool table ever, and no one's ever on it. And the bartender, Bailey, the best. Shout out Bailey.
Wait,
But-
Arlington Saloon, is that in Midtown or where
It's
is
right
that?
next to Playfield.
It's
where
at the
it
base of
formerly played.
Arlington Towers,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yep. So my grandpa used to live there, and I swear his ghost haunts that bar because
Spooky.
every time I go in there, one of his favorite movies is playing, like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, and I'm like, this is the coolest bar.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to have to go there.
And the best part, as my favorite locals,
Yes.
you guys won't run into anybody. because no one else is ever there.
Is it really like
Yeah,
empty most
it's
of
empty.
the time?
It's like six
That's
or
like my
seven
favorite
people.
bar. I
It's
don't
the
want to
best
ever see
bar.
people.
I went out to Louis
Mhm.
and then Coyote Saloon
Yep.
a few weeks ago when I was in town, and every bar I went to, I ran into like 3 kids from high school.
Mm.
I was
Yeah.
like, I hate Reno for this reason.
So, okay, you grew up here and now you're in Vegas. Why are you in Vegas?
So, a little bit of backstory. I was born in Reno, spent a few years in Vegas as a kid. Then I spent most of my childhood in Truckee, and then I came back to Reno for high school and coincidentally college because no other schools except UNR accepted me.
Mm.
But yeah, so I graduated, went to Australia, like I told you, came back, couldn't really figure out what I was doing in the world. So I was like, oh, let's go back to Australia. I worked for this great company that I'm with now over there. So I was like, take me back.
Yeah.
Sponsor my visa. Because, like, you can go to Australia for a year for $325 for your visa, and it's called the working holiday. But if you want another year, you have to do 88 days of farm work or hospitality above the line of Capricorn, which like divides Australia in half. So you're in the hottest part of it.
Yeah, you're in the
And you're
part
doing
no one wants to be.
bananas or some shit. Like, and I was like, I went to college for 4 years. I'm here to have fun. I'm sure as hell not working on a farm.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to come back, I'll figure it out. So this is my figuring it out. Well, all my friends are still over there, but whatever. And so I refused to do the farm work, ended up living in Sydney, working for this company, came back, spent like a year trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself, and ended up going back to the same company, but in Vegas, because my resume wasn't built enough for them to bring me back to Australia. Because I guess getting an Australian visa, especially when you're working, huge pain in the ass. So I'm kind of building myself up. So I hate Vegas. I love Reno. I hate Vegas. Vegas sucks. All these people try and tell me otherwise, and I refuse to listen to them. Actually, my favorite part about Vegas is when people are like, oh, you've been here for like 10 months. How are you loving it? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
And it just, nobody ever expects that answer. So it takes all the wind out of their sails immediately. And I'm just like, yes.
Like,
I know no one's
I
ever
leave
said that.
to
What
go
is
to
like
Reno every
what's
week.
yeah, what's the why? Why do you hate it so much?
Just like everything's so expensive. I tried to even go to the national park there, Red Rock, and it's $22 for a day to go hiking. I'm like, this is
Oh,
ridiculous.
that's stupid.
That's
Like when you're from Reno and you can just hike anywhere, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Trail.
yeah, exactly. And nobody's like really into going outside, and like half the year you can't.
Yeah, it's too fucking
And
hot.
just like it's just a concrete jungle. Like I'm definitely more of a nature guy.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, we've kind of considered, Vegas as an option to live in, but I think we also, I don't know. I just don't think it's
I feel like
for
that dropped
us.
off the radar very fast.
Yeah.
Dude, it's great for building your career. And like right now, I've got no girlfriend, no kids, not a lot going on in my life. So it's good. Like I've just got a little apartment. I cook all the time for myself.
Yeah.
And, I'm just trying to find the little things in life. As I keep alluding to it, I just got a shrimp tank.
A shrimp tank?
Yeah.
What is that?
It's like a fish tank, but for shrimp. And
Like, do you eat these shrimp?
no, maybe we'll see how bad things get. But they're just like little shrimp, and you get a few of them, and they start like a colony. It's like an aquatic ant farm.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's been keeping me busy. And I went.
Are they like sea monkeys?
No, they're a little bit bigger. They're actual shrimp. I had to find a shrimp store. It's all very.
got a shrimp
guy.
guy.
The shrimp guy actually told me no shrimp. He said run the tank for 2 weeks, and then come back to me and get some shrimp. Which thank God, because it's not going well. But that's kind of how I got to this topic for our debate, is because I was telling my friends at work, they're like, dude, it was harder for you to get shrimp than it was for us to have children.
Sounds like
And
it.
I was like, damn, I never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, nobody ever says no at any point of you having children.
Okay, so do you actually believe that we should regulate it?
I think that the government should, after X amount of kids, pay for, getting tubes tied and vasectomies, because like we just don't need all these kids. Like the Duggar family, how many do they got now running
Yeah.
around?
13 or 14.
Because
And
my
like 5 of them
only-
are pedophiles.
Yeah.
Like my
Pretty nuts.
question to you is though, like if we regulate it, are we making it a crime if you do have past the point of kids, or if you're told you cannot have kids and you go have kids? Like what are you want? Like what is the expectation after that?
I think in reality, the system I'm thinking of is more of like a certificate. You're like, yeah, they said I'm good. Like you can have kids no matter what. Like there's never gonna be like a time where you're like, there's a kid under the floor. We got to get him.
Yeah.
Like there's never gonna be raids to get the extra kids.
You're
But
fathering
I
children.
do think that you should like check in and be like, hey, you think we're good? And they're like, yeah, you like if you two went, they're like, yeah, you're both smart, you're both doing the right thing in life. Have a kid, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm as Nevadans, we all know interesting people.
Right.
And you know people that
Usually
shouldn't
see
have
them at the
children.
casino. Yeah.
I know we're okay. We got to get into it, debate, but the best, yeah. So there's two great places in my life I've seen lots of people. As Mike can tell you, stand-up comedy attracts every insane person from all over the planet. It's great.
Some of them somehow have children too.
Yeah, a lot of them do. A lot of the craziest ones have. There's a guy in Vegas, an older guy, and he comes with his whole family, like his adult children and stuff.
Yeah.
And he does a comedic rap.
Oh
And
God.
he's like an older white guy. And
Oh
I'm
no.
like,
A comedic rap, like he raps.
he does a sound. Yeah, he brings up a speaker, starts the speaker. There's a beat. He's like, "I love my kids, except maybe Josh." And you're like,
You're like, that's your only one.
I was like, dude, you wrote this. I was like, you've been rehearsing this.
Oh shit.
But the other great one was speech and debate, like when I did in high school.
Yeah.
That was awesome because you do it with everybody from, because like the league here in Reno is Northern Nevada. So you do it from pretty much everywhere in the state except for Vegas comes out. So we did a tournament every year in Elko, and like you're a high school kid staying next to the brothel and you're like, what's that? You know?
Yeah.
But it was just a trip because you get the homeschool kids, they're a part of it too. It's like one of the few things they get to do. But
He's like, get to participate.
you know, the
Make eye
homies,
contact
we
there.
keep them in the house.
Yeah.
There's a reason. But yeah, and so I know I was promising to tell you this story, but so the type of debate I did was congressional debate. So what people would do is you'd write a topic and it was like 14 lines, and it's like the one I gave you, for example, was a homeschooler topic. And they were like, I stand the resolution to divert some of the defense funding to pay for a hawk in every police department to counteract drones. And you're like, really? Who came up with that?
Let's put that into more simpler terms for people like me who might be listening. So what it like
The government
this-
should buy cops hawks to counteract drones.
Okay, thank you.
And
yeah.
I was like, that's pretty dumb. And I didn't even think I was going to speak on it, but that was always my best ones, is the ones I didn't think. And I went up there and I was like doing visual demonstrations. I'm like, so there's this thing called a 12 gauge. You can much cheaper than a hawk because you don't have to feed the 12 gauge. But
Or did they actually believe that though? Like
oh,
that
dude,
doesn't.
it's like, because it's kind of an echo chamber too, like amongst schools, even when you have a topic, because you have to be on the pro side of your topic. Like if you write it,
Yeah.
it's called like an author speech
Right.
that you'd give.
Okay.
And so you spend all this time writing this and you're working on it with your team and shit. So by the time you get in there, you're pretty much red pilled into believing whatever it is,
Mhm.
which is hilarious. So this is the story I promised to tell you guys. So there's one that people still occasionally, like, it was horrible. It happened to me when I was working at the UNR gym in college, but like this girl came up to me. She's like, "Oh my God, I know you." She goes, "You're the circumcision guy." And I'm
What a
like,
title.
I'm like, what? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, by the way, that's the first time I'd ever heard that title, but I'm shocked she'd remember this. And she reminded me of it because I remembered, but I put it deep in the back of my mind.
Yeah, you were traumatized.
But what had happened is we were in Elko, and I believe this was one of their topics. But there was a lot of like general topics like stopping
Yeah.
bodily mutilation and that sort of stuff. And so they were trying to, the resolution was to stop circumcision because it's body mutilation. And so I was like, there's no way on God's green earth I'm making a speech about this. I didn't write down any facts at all. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm like, I refuse to talk about it. And then 8 chicks go up and talk about it. So there's no guy perspective. So I'm like, I'm going to have to do this. So I go up there and I'm holding my notes and I'm just shaking like a leaf because it's like everything I've wrote. I'm like, this is going to be bad. I'm like, so a lot of chicks in here have been talking about circumcision, and I just wanted to talk about some facts. So some of you said that, you know, we'll have to clean it more, and you
Oh.
guys said we'd be good at that. But like, when have teenage boys ever been good at cleaning? And some of
doing stand-up.
yeah, and I'm just trying to do this debate, and the judge is like just a mom, and she's killing herself laughing. All the guys are killing themselves laughing.
I bet.
The girls are giving me the death stare of all time because they've all worked so hard on this. They're like, I'm like, some of you said that all the nerve endings are there, and sex isn't going to be pretty good, but I'm sure it's still pretty good. and I'm just trying to get through this, and it was just a blip. And these girls get up and they're like, "You said this, this, and this. Do you have any evidence to back it up?" I'm like, "No, no, it's horrible." And I'm trying the whole time. I'm like, "Please don't let it give away what I am." I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, boys, no, we give each other hard times in the locker room, and it's sometimes just easier to say your parents chose.
Oh my gosh.
And dude, I got a perfect score on the speech, and it was for sympathy. And the judge was like, "Yeah, maybe next time keep it a little bit more PG." But she had written all these notes over it. She's like, "This was the funniest thing I've seen in my adult
Do you
life."
have a bit about that?
No,
You should somehow create a bit for that. That is fucking hilarious. And I wish I was there.
Dude.
That must have been, they just got a free, well, it probably wasn't free. I'm assuming.
It's free.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
they
free.
got a free
See some
It's
kids
speech
argue.
free show that is so funny.
It was one of the and it just went on for so long.
Yeah.
And then everyone's going back and sourcing me.
Yeah.
So they're like, you should go with what I'm saying because of what he said. I'm like, I just was trying to give my perspective. I just thought a guy had to speak on
Yeah,
it.
you're like, I just had to
You
stand
know,
up here and give
actually.
my experience.
Yeah, I was like,
So the girl that had stopped you, what did you say? Were you like, were you starting to shake again?
yeah, immediately. I'm
You're like,
immediately
and, I'm just
I
here
think
at
I
the
just-
gym, and I just want to work out.
Yeah, well, I was working with her, and she immediately outed me to all of our coworkers, and so then I had to spend 2 months at the gym telling people on one-on-one. I'm like, yeah, no, she's totally blowing it out of proportion. I wasn't talking about circumcision. I was actually
I have the recording right here.
I was actually trying to defend my fellow bros. I had to make sure that the males were represented and that we, had a voice in this issue that relates directly to our bodies.
Oh my God.
Bodily autonomy.
Bodily autonomy.
That is, what's the craziest thing that you've had to debate besides that? That sounds like a pretty
That's pretty up there, I
dramatic.
feel like.
But what's the next craziest thing that you've debated?
So the best, I don't
Where
know
you,
if there's any.
dunked on someone.
I did. Okay, so this is a good story, but it's not from a high school debate. So I took a communications class, and yeah, you a communications major?
Oh, Wait, here at UNR because we
Yeah.
both went to UNR.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took one of the communications class, and I took advanced debate because I was like, I've done it. This seems more fun than the other ones.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not a communications major, so I just got to get this done. And so Dr. Phil, his first name was Phil, but we called him Dr. Phil.
Oh
That's
my
He was
God.
this chill guy, didn't really care, but he made us debate dams. And I thought that was the stupidest topic because I told you, everything I did was so specific
Yeah.
to bills and resolutions and laws and stuff,
Yeah.
things that would affect the government. And this was just are dams good or bad? And we had to do a bunch of research for it, and I didn't realize how bad dams were until I was assigned how bad dams were. But we go up and give these speeches, right? And I kind of did it here, but I didn't really. But what you're supposed to do is, I stand in firm affirmation, negation of the resolution, and then you immediately get into a fact, and then you explain why that fact relates.
Mm.
So I did that. My speech was really boring, right? But I did it, and I was like, we're gonna win easily.
Mm.
So then this guy from the Bay goes up, and he's like, and there was a couple cheerleaders in our class, and they were just enamored with him. He was just handsome. And
He's
he
just
goes up.
one of those
He
hot
goes up and
dudes.
he's like, "Yeah, I'm actually from California, and there was a fire, and the fire was bad, and my friends lost houses in the fire." And the girls were like, "Oh my God!" And you can
No.
yeah. And so then he's like, and then maybe if there were dams, they could have helped the fire. And he doesn't talk about dams until the last 2 minutes, or the last 20 seconds, I should say, because it was only 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Phil goes, "Class, who do you think won this debate?" And the cheerleader girls go, "Well, I think he won it because, he's just so well-spoken, and he really made me care about his family because of the fires in California." And this still bothers me to this day.
I
And
can tell.
so Dr. Phil goes, "You know who I think won this?" And they're like, "Who?" He goes, "Jackson and this other girl." And he's like, they're like, "Why?" He goes, "Because he didn't talk about dams."
Right.
He thought he was hot.
just-
Yeah, he was,
Hot.
he just did the whole oh, it's all about emotion. And this stuff, this in particular makes watching political stuff for me, drives me crazy.
A little
Is
triggering.
the moment you see someone start going, well, I'm really just here for the people
Yeah.
and the places and the things. And you're like, you haven't said one thing of substance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think
Word salad.
Yeah.
like this previous election really opened up my eyes to debate in general
Yeah,
and how dumb they think the American population is.
absolutely.
And
Well,
also how dumb the population is.
it's
Is, yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that's.
I
didn't say I totally felt that way.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't attack the host when I'm on for the first time.
As you should,
No,
actually.
you should attack the hosts.
Not you, just him.
Accountability is
No,
important.
I thought the best debate of the political season was J.D. Vance versus Tim Walz because they did something that everyone should do, but Americans refuse to do, which is, yeah, that guy's right. I like his idea. I'll do that too.
Yeah.
Like that. If you just did that for an election season, you'd win
Yeah.
every time. Just, oh yeah, what he said's good, and if I win, I'll do that too. Like it doesn't have to be like I hate everything he stands for.
Yeah.
Too logical. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like that's most
Okay.
of it.
So I do want to talk to you about like actually debating
Okay.
because this is my biggest insecurity
Okay.
is like actually formulating an argument, standing by it, and being able to articulate it in a way that's one, convincing, but two, doesn't get me emotional and riled up to the point where I cry.
So okay, here's
why
here's
women
my
aren't
best
in
advice for
debates.
this, and this is.
Just kidding.
I
That
mean,
was a joke.
I'm being serious though. Like I like speech and debate. I want to get better at like stating what I believe in, but sometimes it's hard for me to actually understand like what do I believe in. So I just want to know like what's your process of going through this debate cycle?
So here's some real world application because this is something I think about a lot. So like obviously in today's climate, everyone's got family on all different sides of the political
Yes.
spectrum. I am notoriously pretty good at getting on with everybody because I don't really go heavy into it, but what I like to do is let people speak and then critique what they say. Like as you saw in the debate we just did, some of my strongest points were rebutting what he said. Like,
Mhm.
you should basically, here's the best part about debate is when you have to do each side, you realize that you can see another perspective.
Right.
Like, you should be able to go into everything and you should be able to learn at the end of the day. Like, I'm probably now on his side about having to get permission to have children,
Right.
But you should have a malleable opinion. But that being said, when you have a belief that you really want to stick next to, just start picking apart why they believe what they do.
Use
what
their
they-
own words against them.
Exactly, because like it's a classic journalism technique, which you guys are very good at already on this podcast, which is letting people speak, and they just keep going and going and going,
Right.
and they'll eventually say something that's just the cord that unravels the whole thing.
Okay. So letting people speak, but then when they're asking you questions about things, like
Give me an example of what you think about this. Give me. It can be anything.
living in Reno.
Living in Reno. So if I was to say Reno's the worst place on earth
Hmm.
because it's small, it's not beautiful when it's cold, it's constantly getting more expensive, and there's a huge chance it burns down. Are you going to hit me with facts against that? Or are you going to be like, well, why don't you think it's pretty in the wintertime? Like.
Okay, so so instead of like arguing against you and trying to come up with my own points, what you're saying is to question something that you just said.
Yeah, defend your points by asking questions to the other person that reveal their thought process.
Mm,
Because, like, especially with politics nowadays, people will be like, I'm this. Well, why? Well, because I believe in this, this, and this. Well, don't you know that the other side believes in this and that? Like, you're one off, Like,
yeah,
we're never more than a few questions away from changing somebody's mind.
right.
It's like the American mindset to be very stand in your ways. But, like, I don't know, it's hard to keep emotion out of it because obviously the human body will just get emotional
Yeah,
when like certain things are brought up, but also at the same time, like if you can, kind of have the stoner mindset of just I'm observing.
hmm
Like
Let me ask
I'm not a
some
part of
questions.
this. I'm observing. Like the
Mhm.
classic, they're like I'm not a part of the system, man.
yeah,
You're like you should think of every situation as what if I wasn't involved in this? Like obviously, like, here's a good one that I saw you kind of getting towards, was like bodily autonomy, and you're right.
Yeah, I almost said that, but then I was like, let's choose a different one.
Right? Yeah. So like that's an interesting one. But like you gotta be like, well, if I take myself out of this situation, both sides do have their own points, right?
Mhm.
There's one side that's right, and I think you and I agree on this
Yeah.
without having to say it. But like you have to understand where somebody's coming from in order to not get emotional, because a
Mhm.
lot of the time it's like from a place of ignorance. Like
Mhm.
we all think that we're smarter than the next person, which is why we all think our opinions are more correct.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they're opinions.
Totally. But I also think that a lot of people, when they're arguing, it's because they think that there is a right answer.
I
It's
agree.
not like sometimes I think it could be a better or worse answer, but most of the time it's always about being right. What is the right solution? What is the right answer to the situation? I'm going to choose that.
There's also very few things that are right and wrong. And then it's
But
helpful
everyone's right and
directionally.
wrong is also different. But then I also
Sometimes. I don't
but
know.
then
Shouldn't fuck kids. That's a big one.
right.
Everyone's-
No, I
Well,
think
you,
that
we need to watch you.
I know. I go for the most extreme because
he
that
does.
opens up the area for gray area. Like,
But
if you
also
go
at the
all
same
way-
time, you just dropped child labor earlier. Like it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
nothing.
Well, you know what? They need to get to
You're a
work.
capitalist
They
through
need
and
to get
through.
to work.
More taxes equals a bigger system.
More taxes, tip them so I don't have to pay them.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yep.
Yeah.
like, do
But-
you think that religion has a lot to do with like the arguments that people are having in our political climate?
No, I think religion is the biggest farce, because like
Mm.
everyone is like, well, the Catholics say, or the Muslims do this. Like all these religions have been killing the other ones for all of time. I'm like, I don't really think it's a moral high ground to be standing on. Like, I don't know, like with everything in the news right now, people are like trying to make America like a more Catholic Christian country. Like, if anything, we're Protestant. Like that's what the Pilgrims were.
Kind of
You
came
know?
over here to get away from a lot of that
Exactly.
shit.
Yeah, and it's just like I think it's just a good backbone, because like you were saying earlier, like right and wrong is hard, but when you have a book from back in the day that gives you kind of loose guidelines, like you're able to defend your own thoughts. But at the same time, like the Bible's kind of hard to use to apply to modern day standards,
Mhm.
and like the Quran and all this sort of stuff, because like Jesus never saw an AR-15. Like
I think Jesus probably
Like-
would have been more liberal
I-
than.
yeah, I think this whole
Like
like
old school liberal or modern day liberal?
That's a great question. I don't know. He was hanging out with prostitutes and taking care of the sick, and like, hey man, we probably shouldn't be raising money in church, things like that. So
Yeah, that is interesting how a lot of the church stuff went from, no, you do this for free, to give 7% of everything you make to the church.
your
Like,
tithings.
so when I was in Australia, this is a good little segue story, but when we were in Australia, like obviously I have just started doing comedy, but I've always kind of had this comedic mindset just to piss people off.
Mhm.
Like a lot of what I do when it comes to politics is not playing a side and making each other fight against them. Like we have this big family group chat, and I'm always poking, buttons, because I know somebody's
little
gonna bite,
Yep.
just fishing. But my mom's very Catholic, and so she wanted us to go to mass, Catholic mass in Australia, and there's this beautiful church in the center of Sydney, and inside this church is a smaller replica of the church you're in. So I thought it was hilarious. So I'm like, Mom, how much you want to bet there's a smaller replica inside the replica, right? And so
Is this a school
Yeah.
for ants?
Yes.
That's how I
Great
imagine
Zoolander,
that.
yeah. So we're sitting there, and the opening mass starts, and they do shit weird out there. A joke I've been working on, but it's very true, is I think the missionaries were all getting hammered when they did Australia and Southeast Asia, and they were like, let's see who can make them believe the craziest thing. Because I went to this island called the Cook Islands, Rarotonga and Aitutaki,
Mm-hmm.
and they bury all of their dead in big boxes in the front yard, and they're all Catholic, and they're like, this is what we were told. I'm like, nobody else is doing this. But so we're doing
Wait,
this.
hold on. They are burying. Wait, say that again.
There's like a big concrete box in their front yard, and they put like,
in front of the church.
no, in front of their houses.
Oh, in front of their houses.
Yes.
It's a great parking spot.
Dude, you drive by all these houses, and there's these little like boxes, and you're like, what's that? And they're like, that's like 6 generations. And I'm like, what happens if you move? And they're like, well, we move them.
Does it smell?
Gross.
No. I don't know. I asked as many questions as I could without being disrespectful, but I had a lot of questions. Let's just say that. So back to the church. So we're in this church. It's Christmas Eve, and we're doing mass. We're in this big, beautiful church with a mini replica, and the guy starts telling this story about how the disciples are going through the desert, and they start building log cabins for themselves instead of tents. And one of the guys is like, "Oh shit, we haven't built in a temple. Like, we've got to build a temple out of stone. Everyone's got to work on it. It's got to be the most grand thing." And God comes down and he's like, "It doesn't matter if you worship me in a tent. All that matters is you worship me." And I'm like, we are sitting in a building that is worth maybe $50 million right now. I'm like, did you guys not read this before? Did you miss?
Like, this matters. Don't worry. We'll run it back. It'll connect. I
was like, I think that just over time, the church has progressively added a few things.
Well, because I don't think it's always, I think a lot of people tie in like what it means to be a Christian or a Catholic, like into the church's wrongdoings. And I don't always think it's like a one-to-one. It's not really related. I think it's about, being spiritual, your relationship with God, how you are as a person, how you behave into the world. But I think what the church is doing is like
with kids.
I mean, yeah. But I think like the church is on
great
another the church has definitely developed into a more extreme version, and that's what's being highlighted. And it's not every single church, but I feel like that's what the left side is using as ammo.
Oh yeah. But it's just like also too, like, you have to realize religion really kept us from brutalizing each other for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Like, here's at least a loose guideline.
Yeah.
Right.
Back in the day when the only punishment was death, now there's like something worse after death. They're like, oh shit, I don't want to go to hell.
Right.
But at the same time, like, I think that, like I was saying, like, I think the church has definitely added a few things. Like, they became this bureaucracy, and then it all becomes about money making, especially in medieval Europe. They're gatekeeping the Bible. It's only written in Latin, so most people can't read it, but they're still like, they've got their hands in every government. It's a big thing to go see the Pope as a king. Like, you're going to see him and not the other way around. I always thought it was very interesting. But this is a bit I've been trying to work on for a bit. But I think that 100% during the Dark Ages, they made up that suicide is a sin, because I think everyone was just jumping to the front of the line. They're like hearing about how good this heaven place is, and you just watch your whole family die by the plague. They're like, dude, I hear it's really good there.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I like that.
That's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like there's all these like weird ones that come out every now and then. Like, there's the 10 Commandments, but also,
Sprinkle this one in there. Don't worry.
Exactly.
I like the idea of like all these missionaries getting fucked up and seeing how far they can take it with other people, because that makes more sense.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because like the Australians sing everything in Catholic Church. Like, they'll be reading in English, and then the one person said to another, and then it's like, I'm like,
it's
what
like an
the
auctioneer.
Yeah, what the fuck? I'm like, they don't do this back home, But I do think that like we're all talking about the Catholic Church, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's so funny to me in the U.S. that we just stopped talking about the evangelicals.
Those are my favorite.
Like, dude, they are printing money. Yeah. They're like doing the big.
Okay, well, I don't really know much about it, so give me the lowdown.
Oh, they're the
Boy, Joel.
Oh.
The Righteous Gemstones
Yeah.
is so close to real life. The HBO show. Have you ever
Yes.
seen that?
Oh,
Of
yes.
course,
We're
yeah.
waiting for
Season 4. Yeah.
Season 4, yeah.
Yep, I can't wait. But it is so close to real life. Like, this year, I saw all of, like, they did a collage on TikTok of all their Christmas performances, and there's like a few of them in these like stadiums where Santa's sleigh is coming down. You're like, okay, first off, Santa's got nothing to do with religion, and second, like, how much did it pay for you to do this? Because you obviously had to test it.
Right.
You obviously have a full crew back there.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't.
You've got AV. You've got all these people selling tickets. Like, this is a stadium tour.
Yeah, exactly. It's a stadium tour. But when the opening act was doing it in the desert to 12 people, like, that seemed to kick it off much better. By opening act, I mean Jesus. If you didn't get that.
Yeah.
Hey, it started with the Jews, okay?
All right. Okay. Let's stop there.
No, I'm just saying, the book is in 2 parts. There's a first part of it.
We were talking about this before. That's one of the things we said we weren't going to talk about.
Right. That's right.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, kind of going back to comedy really quick, because it seems like you, with speech and debate, and then how much knowledge you have just on like different topics, it seems like hot topics, how did you get into comedy? Like, where did it come from you shaking at that one speech and debate in Elko, and you were like, I'm actually a comedian?
No, I haven't realized this until recently, but a lot of what I've been doing for years is bits, but I've just been
Right.
doing it as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now that I'm thinking about it, like I can't think of one, but like
That's okay.
I talk about the ocean a lot. Like that's always been a bit. Like I'm like, yeah, there's shit down there. Like the aliens are obviously in the ocean.
Right.
Like why would they park on land? Like the ship's made for outer space. Like we're not down there. That's the the
Yeah.
obvious solution. And so I've always been like going off on these rants, and I just thought I was insane.
Mm-hmm.
And then my cousin, way too late, like 8 months ago, Destin, who you've met, showed me Kill Tony, and I had never
Only
seen
8
it.
months ago?
Yeah, and I'd never seen it, and I was like, "Fuck, we could do this." You
Yeah.
know, like he showed me that Reno guy that went up. Did you ever see that clip?
I sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm the hottest guy from Reno."
That was a
Like, oh.
terrible way to open the set.
Low bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it
Upset
was,
that he represented Reno.
yeah, it was
there.
terrible. And one of us has to get on Kill Tony to
To right the
earn
ship.
some respect back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I saw that and I was like, let's do it. And then I went to lunch like a month later, the next time I was up here visiting, because this was after I moved to Vegas. I was at the steakhouse underneath Midnight Coffee Roasters.
Oh no.
I saw stand-up comedy tonight just on the sign.
Yeah.
I was like, called my cousin, like, let's do it tonight. Let's go. And so I wrote this like whole bit, and it was like 2 or 3 minutes, and it just did not go as well as I thought.
Really?
Yeah, because like it was something I'd been doing for a joke, like because when I was in Australia, I like lived in Sydney, right?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe this, but they don't have a ton of movie theaters out there. Like there's so many in Reno, there was not one in the center of Sydney. So I was living.
That's interesting.
So I was living in this little area called Redfern, and had a bunch of really cool roommates and stuff. And so my roommate Abby and I were having a best friends day. We just went on did a bunch of activities.
It's like
and I
a
was
date, but not.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, we're just two buddies living in the same house with one bathroom and giant spiders all over the place. But yeah, so we had this fun day, and Ant-Man Quantumania had just come out.
Okay.
And so I was like, let's go see it. And like, I had managed to find a little bit of marijuana over in Australia. So I was
Okay.
like, this will be sick high. So it's also Mardi Gras, busiest time in Sydney. Like, it's so
I didn't
fun.
know they celebrate Mardi Gras.
They
Oh.
go big for Mardi Gras.
Really?
Yeah. Like
That's
it's,
really good
and it's
to know.
fun too. Like
Mm.
very fun.
Is it
People
at the
come-
same time?
It's in like a week. So whatever a week from now is.
Fat Tuesday.
So it's the same time that New Orleans
think
has
so.
their Mardi Gras.
Yeah, so it's like Pride and Mardi Gras all combined into one. and It's
Okay.
really fun. So we braved the storm to get out of our area because we're like in the center. So all the trains are full. Everyone's drinking on the trains. There's cops everywhere. And I'm like, I'm high. You know, I'm like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be here. And then we get into Ant-Man. I'm like, finally we can chill. And Ant-Man Quantumania was so bad
Oh,
that we
yeah.
both looked at each other. We're like, this is Australian pranked. Like we must be on a joke show. There's
Right.
no way that Paul Rudd's in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
So I made my whole first set about that, and it didn't work. And I was
Oh,
like,
no.
That's
like,
most
shit.
of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like,
exactly.
I thought this was hilarious. Turns out it's not. Oh
Yeah.
Apparently,
no.
no one else thinks it's funny.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
Thursday
and
for
that's
me.
very humbling as stand-up comedy. So that's what got me into it. So like I was like one bomb. Now let's see if I can run with this. And so my cousin and I have just started doing it every time I came up on Thursdays because I get to work from home Thursday, Friday.
hmm
And so I'll come up Wednesday nights, stay for the long weekend, and yeah, Thursday nights we give it a go. And that's how I met my boy Mike here. And
Yeah. No, I'm like super excited that you're going to be coming up more often too, because I feel like I remember seeing you once, but then I didn't really see you again, so I didn't know that you lived in Vegas and that you come up here.
it's also
so
weird with
often.
like Reno, the crowd too, because there's literally like 12 of us comedians that
Yeah.
do it, and like it's very dramatic sometimes. There's a lot of
High school
strong
drama.
personalities. I'll just say that.
You
Mhm.
can't get into the high school drama. I think it's
Yeah.
the stupidest thing, and you literally like you just stay in your lane. Like just be
yeah.
friends with everyone and stay in your
But
lane.
it's also, as Mike can tell you, like nobody up there is a Tom Segura
No.
or like a
No.
like a Daniel.
Sell out
Tosh.
some
Yeah.
theaters
Like-
and give me some advice then. Until then,
Exactly.
Fuck
So when
off.
everyone walks in like all tense and they like don't want to be your friend. and,
Yeah.
like, it's very much the same in Vegas. Like nobody's friendly in Vegas.
Really?
At all at stand up open mics. And I'm just like, I'll do my shit and go. Like I'm done.
Really?
Because like
so there's no community, like
No,
no
like,
community
and
building.
there's like a
no-
few guys that know each other, but like I've tried to make friends and stuff at that, and like people are very closed off because like it's like very merit based, but also once you start doing a bit better than somebody,
Then you earn the
things get
respect.
really worse.
Oh, worse.
Yeah, because as
Turns
Mike will
into
tell
a-
you, if you've got somebody that's been doing this for 2 years
Mhm.
and you go up there and your set that you wrote yesterday kills compared to what they're doing, they're never going to talk to you again.
Remember the crabs in the pot analogy I gave you?
Yeah.
About as soon as somebody starts doing well, it's like, come back down here,
Yeah.
bitch.
Yeah,
Like that is, there's a handful of people that are incredibly supportive.
so
but
good.
They will,
So good.
like, I bombed so bad on Thursday night, and there were a couple people that pat me on the back and they're like, it's okay, buddy. It wasn't that bad. And I was like, you are cancer for me. Like, it was that bad. It was terrible.
Yeah,
So that's how it goes. But yeah, the community here, people are cool. I keep to myself, and I'm buddy-buddy with a lot of people, but I don't get involved in drama because it's fucking stupid.
it's just so small, and there's only so many open mics, and like now, just the way that comedy's going and everything, everyone feels like they want something that's theirs. Like
Mhm.
everyone wants their own Kill Tony.
Yeah.
And you really just have to realize that it's not that deep. Like we're
No, it's
all
not that
giving up a
serious.
Thursday night that we had nothing better to go on to go watch people that we know are going to be worse than us, so we can try out some jokes that probably won't work. You know, like
Let's see how this one goes.
exactly.
All right.
Like I've got my notebook that I keep in my backpack at work, and when I think of something, I write it down. And I cannot tell you how many times I've gone up because like Vegas is a pretty big crowd at like the Wise Guys Open mic up in by the Stratosphere, so it's like 30, 40, 50 people.
Oh.
Yeah, and I've bombed a few times in front of like a full house, and I'm just like, peace, I'm out. Like I'll just stop the set. Like I did one that was so bad. I had this really funny joke, and I was doing so well on the setup. Like I was getting so many laughs. I totally messed up the punchline.
I just
Oh.
stepped
I was
all
like,
over
you
it.
know what? That's probably good. I don't probably need to tell any more jokes tonight. You
You're
know,
like, I actually have to go home
yeah,
now.
it's like a sad 20-minute drive home. You know?
Yeah.
I'm like,
Those are the worst. Where you're sitting there, it's like, God damn, it's so stupid.
exactly. And
I
then
know.
like the worst too is like, there's probably 12 people up here at any open mic, so it's
Mhm.
not like too long. Everyone's got like 4 to 5 minutes, and up here it's really supportive. Everyone wants you to work on your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down there it's like a solid 3, but also they don't cap how many people can sign up. So I have been 33rd 4 times.
It's an exhausted room.
It's 2.5 hours of open mic comedy.
Jesus Christ.
You're done. Like especially after working a full day. Like by the
Oh,
time it
that's
gets there,
exhausting.
you're like I don't like comedy anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
No.
listening to the news on the way home. Like I'm normally listening to a comedy podcast. I'm like no jokes, please.
Yeah. That actually is very draining, it seems like.
Yeah.
So that's not every open mic. That's just most open mics
That's
in
just Wise
Vegas.
Guys. That's the only one I've found thus far, and it's on Wednesdays.
But it seems like the open mics there is like people that are not just comedians. It's like civilians that are there too,
We're
right?
all civilians. Yeah. When you,
Thank you for your
open this
service.
podcast with he's a comedian, I was like, I'm a sales support, but
Hey, we're living in your dream, okay?
Hey, this could be a dream. I could be in a coma.
Wake up. This is our way of getting
Yeah.
through to you.
That's
Wake
my
up,
biggest
wake
fear.
up.
Don't play with me about that.
No, but I feel like the comedy here is I actually like really love seeing everyone, and I feel like the community here is really tight. Yes, there's high school drama, that's fine, but overall, when I go to open mics, it's mostly comedians, and what I would love to see is like the actual community of Reno get more excited about comedy and
Yeah.
like come and support. But it seems like that's what I was trying to say is the Vegas crowd, there's a good mix of like regular people, like civilians, and then people who are doing comedy that night, right?
Yeah.
So you actually get a true testament to how your comedy
because
works.
it's a true comedy club, so people come just because they know
Yeah.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
fun. And like the service is awesome. They kill it down there. Like it would be amazing if Reno had one.
right.
Like that could just focus on comedy. You know,
Yeah.
that way we could have headliners.
Where it's like locals.
Yeah, like
Because there is the Laugh Factory, but it seems like they don't really support local comics.
I've never even heard of the Laugh Factory until
So
right
it's-
this minute.
It's in the Silver Legacy. It's a Laugh Factory, just like when you
Okay,
hear about
yeah.
Laugh Factory. But their booker is down in LA. So if you don't send a tape to him or get in touch with him in LA, you're not getting on a spot here,
Yeah.
which
And
sucks.
it's like I like it, but I know it's not going to be like my career path.
Mhm.
So like when it all starts getting too much bullshit, like they're like, "Well, we need you to send this in." I'm like, "I'll just stick with my open mics." Like it's not that deep. But yeah, so I've had some interesting experiences with comedy that have really humbled me recently.
Mm.
So my friend Abby, who I was telling you about that I went to see Ant-Man with in Australia, she's English and she came over with her family to Las Vegas. And so we got together. It was great seeing her. And she's like, I know you told me you were doing stand-up. I found a show. Come with me. And it was in Resorts World in the back of this casino, like in this tiny. It was literally a fake castle. And you
Okay.
had to go upstairs, and then you're in this room, and there were like 3 headliners, and it was an hour and a half. Like she had bought it, she'd signed it up for everything. So like it wasn't open mic, but these guys were doing it, and I was like, this is my worst nightmare. Like this is the worst reality for doing comedies, that I end up here doing a show for a bunch of Midwesterners that walked by. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, they
crowd
waddle in
was-
with their Fat
yeah,
Tuesday.
exactly. There's
Yeah.
literally a group of like 4 people that every joke this one guy was saying they were responding to.
Oh.
He's like, and Trump, and they're like, yes, we do.
You're like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, you're like, and so I saw that, and then I saw Sam Talent 2 weeks ago,
How was that?
and Sam Talent's great. Like
Yeah.
he's really funny, and he's like probably one of the top 5% of comedians in the country.
Yeah.
And he was performing at Wise Guys Town Square, which is closer to my place, and it was depressing. I was like, there's maybe 40 people here, 50 people here, and like you could tell he wasn't super hyped to be doing it there. Like
Yeah.
it's got to be a tough reminder sometimes that you're not. It's
When
only the 0.1% of people that become all
Yeah.
these people that we idolize.
When
Like-
you do the road, you have to do the road. You're going to the places that don't have comedy.
Yeah.
So you're in Des Moines, Iowa, and you're like, God, I see why you people are fat and hate their life. Like, I'm here to tell jokes for a night and get the fuck out.
Yeah.
That's
You're like, this
the
is going to be a
reality.
long hour. You paid for it. I'm being paid to be here. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like tipping. Go full circle.
Yeah.
Since you don't have to tip your comedian, it's a pretty
Right.
honest relationship. Like,
Yeah.
I'll give it to Mike. You're much better at crowd work than I am. It's mostly because I can't
Yeah.
see that far. Like I need
Not true.
glasses, but I've always joked. This has been another bit that's for ages. It's like if I got glasses, and that was accompanied by my encyclopedic knowledge of Star Wars, I'd never get another girlfriend. I'm like the glasses might just be too much on the
Yeah.
nerd scale. Like, have you ever heard of Grand Admiral Thrawn?
Right. Yeah.
Do you speak Klingon by chance? I know
All
it's
right, don't.
different.
Yeah,
I know-
yeah.
I know it's different.
Yeah, that was
I
close.
didn't realize I was triggering.
That
you.
was
My
triggering.
bad.
You think that's a joke, but I like the Star Wars.
Got a knife
I like
ready
the
to
Star
go.
Wars.
Yep.
So is this then not your dream of comedy? Because it seems like, I mean, this is a lot of effort and time that you have to go in to be better. And so for it to not be a dream, what's the point?
I mean, what's the point of anything if you put it like that? Like, I've got nothing going on. I live in Vegas. I've got
Very
nothing
nihilistic.
but my mind and jokes. Might as well try it. Like,
No, that's true.
I
I was just asking.
yeah, I mean, like, it'd be cool. I think my dream is that I go on Kill Tony and then become best friends with Shane Gillis and Matt McCusker, and then we start a 3-way podcast and
Right.
ride off into the sun. But that probably won't happen. So I don't know. I'm just gonna keep playing with it. Like, you guys have definitely inspired me here today. I think I'll be starting a pod similar to this
Oh, you should.
Down in,
Oh my gosh, the
Talk
debate
to me
pod.
about
in
it.
Vegas. Yeah.
So she's calling it a debate pod. You talked about the generation gap, right?
I think you know what? I think I've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So I might as well just try like 4 or 5 formats and see
Yeah.
what sticks.
Yeah.
You know, like that I think, having a community like you guys and, some of the weird, wacky characters in my life, like I've got the ability to be like, have something different every week, at least for a while and figure it out. Because I think a debate pod would be fun. But as we learned here, we definitely
prepare.
You need to not just prepare, but you need to prepare both parties for what to expect.
Yeah.
And it can be fun if you keep it going the right direction.
Right.
Like ours were great, 2 topics.
Yeah, I thought
he
it
only
was
talked about child labor camps and Jews a little bit.
Just
Yeah.
twice.
Grazed on it.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Every conversation
Just
I
a
have.
touch of it. That was
Yeah.
fine. That was
Just
appropriate.
Just a sprinkle.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it'd be cool to start something and just try, because like I don't know if you can tell, but I'm the type of person that'll sit down and talk to somebody for 2 hours no matter what. Like I was in
You're a
London.
great conversationalist. I actually think that you
Sweet.
should totally start a podcast, and I'm not just saying that. I think like you're very easy to listen to. You're entertaining when you talk. You have great stories. I think already you're 24 years old and you have a lot of crazy life experience that you can share and also just relate to people with. So I think doing what you guys had already talked about, that generation gap,
Yeah.
I actually really love that idea, and I think you'd be great at it. So if you ever want like podcast behind the scenes help.
Of course, we'll all be
I'll-
going straight to
yeah.
you guys.
I'll plug you into some old people.
Sweet. I've got a very old person I want to have on, my grandfather, before he dies.
Yeah.
But I think the podcast would go, Grandpa, what do you think about this? And he'd go, I don't like it. And that'd be it. It'd be a 30-second podcast. You know, like-
Just compile all of those into one.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 hours in your
Yeah, he's 83, so he's hit this age where he does not give a fuck anymore.
He's just waiting for death.
Yeah, well, like we just had lunch. I had lunch with him today before I came over here. He's like, so and so died, and this person kicked the bucket, and this one. And I'm like, geez, this is chipper. You know, like yeah. And
Glad
then
to hear it, Gramps.
we had an hour-long lunch, and then we went back to his place because I had some time to kill before I came over here. And he sat down and started reading and stopped talking to us. And I was like, it's your life.
Yeah.
You live it how you want to.
Yeah.
Social battery empty. Time to recharge.
I'm like, you're 83 years old. His favorite statistic is he's like the last 0.1% of all people born his birth year. I was like,
Wait.
he's the last
living,
living 0.1% of all people born in his birth year.
which is what?
So
83 minus 2025. That.
yeah, when it's around the war. It's around one of the wars.
Wait, that's kind of a crazy statistic.
There's a 40 in there somewhere.
Yeah, like it's pretty wild because like
Interesting.
I also, and I was telling her I wasn't going to say this, but I'm totally going to bring it up. Just found out my grandma, who's turning 80 in June, does not know how to swim.
Push her in the pool.
She has. She almost made it to
Just
80. We do have a pool.
Damn.
So good idea.
How,
No,
Has she just always been landlocked, or how did that happen?
no. So this woman has taken me on cruises, has taught me how to fish on docks. Like we have done all this stuff around water, and I did not know she couldn't swim until this year. And
Yeah, she just kept that buried down.
and she like just casually dropped it. I'm like, what? You can't swim? And so we're like driving over here, and I'm just berating her, and I'm like. So all those times growing up, when you took my dad and my uncle out on the boat, you were just praying nothing happened, so someone
Yeah.
else would have to save them because
Yes.
she's like,
That?
yeah. But the reason she can't swim is the best
Oh, what?
because my great grandma, who I guess was a drunk and a bit of a racist, told my nana that you get polio if you go into pools. Polio spreads through pools.
No.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love when pre-internet science was a thing where you
Did
could
she-
just shit. Like,
Oh,
here's
yeah.
some shit. There
Yeah.
you go. This works.
Here's some shit.
Yeah.
Like there,
Polio,
I
pools,
Some
don't touch
false
them.
facts.
like obviously I know nothing about polio, but I'm
works
pretty
that way.
sure it's not pool-borne illness.
Yeah.
But did
Also
she
pretty sure
ever?
Chlorine works just fine.
Yeah, but did she ever watch you swim?
Yeah.
Like she was just like, all right, he probably has polio.
Well, she's
No,
like,
not that.
she's like, well, she let her kids swim, right? So I was
Right.
asking her this on the way over here. She's like, well, they had the vaccine, so I was kind of banking on that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
I
That's
would
pretty
love
epic.
to listen to a conversation with
yeah,
with her.
she's hilarious. She missed like 3 turns today. And then
Oh
she's
my
like, I got
God.
my driver's license at 18 too, because I never learned how to parallel park. I'm like, are you trying to relate that to why you're a bad driver now?
You've had
because
60-something years to do
62
that.
years.
Yeah.
God.
I
It's the
think
same
that-
with swimming.
You could have done it at any time and just like, that's a nice pool. I'll go like knee deep and then call it good.
Yeah, and she floats. I'm like, what happens if your floating device popped?
Well,
Oh my gosh, that's actually wild. That would be a fun debate topic though to have with her of at a certain age, like probably what, 70, you have to retake your driver's license test.
Oh yeah,
by the grace of God.
Yep.
Because there's definitely I've had some conversations with some friends about their grandparents and they're like, "Oh, we took her license away," and she's pissed.
Yeah.
Like just shit like that where like as you get older, like that's your freedom. And when that's taken away from you,
That's full circle right there.
Mhm.
oh,
Take people's freedoms.
I mean, it works with every
It works
topic.
with everything.
That would be fun though.
That
I'd
would
be
be.
I'd be interested in listening to that conversation.
Yeah, so I have grandparents in Australia too, and they're in their 80s as well. And my last dinner with them before I left Sydney to do a little bit more traveling before I came home, they picked me up from the train station because like I never needed a car. I just used public transit everywhere. And so I get off at the train station. It's a little bit away from their house because they live, and I kid you not, it's called the Shire. It's south of Sydney,
That's
and they call it the
epic.
Shire. It's so funny. Nobody gets they don't think it's as funny as I do,
Yeah.
but they probably are used to it. So they pick me up, and he just barely passed because they make you do that in Australia. They make you start retesting every few years. So he just
Oh, they
like barely
do.
had passed this test. And then he picks me up. We're driving, and he absolutely crushes a speed bump, like full speed.
Just testing out suspension real
And I
quick.
shit you not, he goes, that wasn't there yesterday. They must have put it in overnight.
No.
And I've never worked construction. But I'm pretty sure you don't do speed bumps overnight.
Oh my
Have to
gosh.
sit a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to be that old person.
Oh,
Already
I'm
dangerous.
already dangerous on the road. I am a liability to
Yeah.
everyone. So
You know, on
Don't fuck with
Virginia,
me.
where there's like a couple of those crosswalks after the light that
Yeah.
homeless people love to go through.
Yep.
She doesn't see them, so beware.
Technically, if it's nighttime, you're allowed to hit him. I'm pretty sure.
They had those speed bumps last night. It's fine. Oh boy, what time is it, by the way?
I know, I
I've been
think-
through 'em for a couple hours.
yeah, I think we do have to wrap it up. But Jackson, thank you for coming on this pod. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation
you
and
guys.
the debate.
Thank
for
you guys so
crushing me.
much, Mike. Well, next time if you do a bit better at stand up, we'll go a little easier on you.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, thank you guys for having me. This has been great. You've definitely inspired me to start a pod, and I hope you guys can be some of my first guests.
Yes.
Good excuse to come on down to Vegas.
Oh,
you guys can
yeah.
sleep on my futon. It's really nice. It's from
Perfect.
IKEA.
Going to take you up on that. So yes,
All right, sounds good. Well,
right.
thank you guys. It was a great time.
Bye.
protect your freedom.
I want to give a special thank you to the incredible Reno Tahoe businesses that have made our Valentine's Day giveaway possible. So first, shout out to Destin and Daniel at Dorinda's Chocolates, who are killing it and making the most incredible chocolates in all of Reno Tahoe. So thank you to the Dorinda's Chocolates team for making this gift basket so sweet and so special. Next up, I want to give a special shout out to the Chocolate Walrus. They have a bunch of fun things that you can buy and wear, to spice up intimacy with your partner, or maybe you just want to take the girls and go have a fun shopping day. Thank you to the team at the Jessie. I absolutely love going to this boutique hotel that has the cutest little taqueria, bar, coffee shop right at the bottom of it. It's on 4th Street, and it just reminds me of like New York Sunday morning coffee shop vibes. And then it can turn into this like fun, sexy atmosphere where you can just feel good about being in downtown Reno. Thank you to all of these businesses that truly made our Valentine's Day giveaway possible and so special and so fun.